Good morning. Good morning, everybody. We're here. Yay! Welcome, welcome. I'm Stephen Sachs. I'm the artistic director of the Fountain Theater. And welcome to the Fountain Theater's new outdoor stage. This lovely new outdoor performance space in which we now stand was launched in June, driven by one simple truth. The show must go on. When our indoor theater was closed by the pandemic, we went outdoors, where we employ dozens of artists, actors, designers, stage managers, production staff, and serve thousands of audience members coming from all corners of Southern California. Our crisis becomes an opportunity. The show must go on. Senator Susan Rubio understands that the show must go on. When Governor Gavin Newsom signed the state budget, it included $50 million in funding requested by Senator Susan Rubio to help intimate theaters like the Fountain Theater up and down the state as we struggle to stay alive under the weight of this catastrophic pandemic. We are here today to thank Governor Newsom for signing the state budget agreement, and we applaud Senator Susan Rubio as one of our state's leading arts champions, fighting for the survival and sustainability of small nonprofit performing arts organizations. Theaters like mine may be small, but we're mighty. There are more arts jobs in California, generating more arts-related income for the state than any other state in the union. But SB 805 is about more than money. There is currency of the spirit. SB 805 provides financial relief so that we may employ artists who provide public relief from isolation and despair. That makes us all first responders of the human condition. And I believe that art plays an essential role in the recovery of this state. Art heals the heart. It brings people together. It lifts people up and inspires each other to move forward. The show must go on. So I'm joined today by a handful of folks who are here to tell you a little bit about the importance of SB 805. And our first speaker is the founding artistic director of Casa 0101 Theater Company, located in Boyle Heights. Yay, let's hear it for Boyle Heights. She is an award-winning writer, best known for her play and film, Real Women Have Curves, and she is a member of the Senate Bill 805 Coalition. Please welcome Josefina López.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Thank you. I do theater because I am a daughter of immigrants. My mother was a seamstress. My father worked for Amtrak. He also was a bracero. And they had no voice. I was undocumented for many years. And so I grew up with parents who, their greatest dream for me was to just go to high school. They never dared for me to dream this big, to think that I could be a screenwriter, a playwright. But I dared to dream, and part of the reason I did that is because I saw how much they contributed to the economy of California and the history of the U.S., how much Latinos contribute, and yet we are voiceless and invisible, and we're not heard. So I made a promise to myself and to them that I would be their voice. I remember asking my mother, assuming, that everyone has the right to dream. I said, Mom, when you were a kid, what was your dream? She said, Mija, we were so poor, we couldn't even afford to dream. So I dared to dream that I could be someone and speak up. So I became a playwright and a screenwriter. And despite having the talent, despite all this ability, there's so much racism in Hollywood, and we all know that. Because I'm sick and tired of Latinos always being the bad guys. I'm sick and tired of us always being the narcos. And the shows that only get made in Hollywood are about narcos and prostitutes and Latinos as sex workers and the servants. And so I set out to write plays, to celebrate my community, to celebrate women. And I created my own theater because no one would produce my plays in Los Angeles. And so I started my little theater, and I was an artist. I didn't know how to run a theater, but luckily I met someone who did. And together we made all these amazing plays. And then we did such a great job that we decided to open a bigger theater. And then we did such a great job that we created so many roles beyond the stereotypes of Latinos. And what I realize is that a theater is not just entertainment. I think if you're a white person, if you're a male or someone who doesn't experience oppression, you have so much privilege, you just see theater as entertainment. But for people like us, it takes a leap of courage to just dare to dream. For us, it's our voice. I've had to really look at myself and look at why I do this, because I hate begging. I hate begging for money, for the arts. We are the essential workers of the soul. And here we are again begging and saying, no, the arts are not something you do just to pass the time. The arts is what saves lives, because it saved my life. When you live in a society that constantly tells women they're worthless unless they're skinny and beautiful, when you live in a society that constantly sees you as nothing more than a pair of hands, you fight for your heart. You fight to let people know that you have a corazón, that you're a heart, that you're just more than a body to be exploited. So in our stories, in my stories, I get to tell people that I'm more than what you see, right? Because I'm tired of constantly being assumed that because I look like this, that I'm here to clean your house, or I'm here to do sex work for you. I am more than that. Our plays are more than that. In our plays, we get to win. When I write a play, my character gets to win. My character gets to have the final say, because we live in a world that constantly tells us to shut up, and I refuse to shut up. And it's just devastating to think that, the one thing that gives you fulfillment, it gives you courage, that gives you purpose in life, that someone can legislate that someone can say, oh, you can't do that. Oh, yeah, you do, but you got to pay all this amount of money. And it's a form of censorship when people have the right to do that to artists, So for me, I wrote a theater because I saw how many people had dreams in my community, but no one was giving them the opportunity. So my theater is the house of 1,000 dreams. So when I think about not getting the funding, about SB 805 not passing, I just think, okay, it's the death of my dream. It won't be, because I'm a freaking artist and I'm going to keep going. But I would hate for all these dreams to die. I think about all the people that have thanked me for opening the theater in a community that's mostly known for drive-bys, in a community that there's very little hope. And I fight for them, because there's 1,000 dreams that cannot die. This bill really is killing dreams. That's really what it comes down to it. I've had to look at my heart and go, pues para qué? Just go do something else. You can do now. I'm successful. I can do other things. And it's like, no, our community deserves a voice. And this is why I'm asking Lorena Gonzalez to have a heart. You do not want to kill 1,000 dreams. I think her intention originally with AB 5 was to support people, immigrants, people who were being exploited. Well, as artists, we're not exploiting people. We're trying to uplift their spirit. So Lorena Gonzalez, please do not kill 1,000 dreams. Please do not kill my dream. Gracias.
Our next speaker is the reason why we are all here today. She was elected to the California State Senate in 2018 and represents District 22 in Los Angeles County. She is the first Latina chair of the Senate Insurance Committee and is chair of the Senate Select Committee on Domestic Violence. In February of this year, she introduced Senate Bill 805, the Save the Performing Arts Act of 2021. It is my honor to introduce California Senator Susan Rubio.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. So I am California State Senator Susan Rubio, and it's with great honor that I stand here in support of small theaters with this coalition of amazing artists, directors, performers, and as Josefina said, people that have dreams. And I'm here to be that pathway to your dreams. Thank you for inviting me, for being part of what I'm doing in the state legislature. But more importantly, I want to thank the SB 805 coalition that's gotten us this far. So a big round of applause to you. So today, in particular, we're here to celebrate a historic milestone for us here in the theater community, and that is $50 million. $50 million. Yes, big round of applause. And that is for immediate funding to help small theaters stay afloat during this pandemic. And I also want to thank, in particular, our governor, Gavin Newsom. Please, big round of applause. When the doors were closing, when we were losing hope, he stepped up and really stepped up and gave us that funding. And so I want to just continue to say, thank you, Governor Newsom, for trying to work with me, trying to work with all of us here and saying yes to the funding. And those $50 million are going to go a long way to help those dreams that Josefina López talked about continue. So thank you, Josefina, for your passion and for what you do for our community. Can we give her a big round of applause? So let me start by saying that we cannot dismiss the value that small community theaters bring to our communities. And I can say with certainty and firsthand that they save lives and they provide a pathway to opportunities. And that's coming from an individual here standing before you, formerly undocumented, formerly deported, formerly a second language learner. And theater gave me the confidence I needed to stand before you here today as one of 40 California state senators. And I do remember Casa 0101 when she opened it 20 years ago. I was part of that world. And I saw Josefina take the time to embrace those kids that were lost in our communities. She brought them in for playwright classes, for whatever they wanted to do. It was about expression, creativity, and honing your craft. And these are opportunities that often are not given to communities of color, underserved communities, Latino communities, and she provided that pathway. So I am super thankful to her, to Manuel, for also allowing me to be part of that world. 20 years ago when they started the theater in Boyle Heights, it wasn't a popular place to be. As she mentioned, there was drugs, gangs, violence, and I also was exposed to all those bad elements. I just happened to be a creative child with a lot of energy, and the arts gave me that place to put that creativity into positive expression. And I did local theater for several years all over Los Angeles County. And again, it wasn't because you thought you were going to get paid, but it's because you really appreciated the art. You appreciated the family community. And for all of you that do theater, movies, you do become a family. You support each other, you take care of each other, you make sure that everyone succeeds. And going back to the $50 million, I hope that we can save a few of those young individuals right now lost, we're here to support you. So thank you, Governor Newsom, for that funding, and to the SB 805 Coalition for pushing for that funding. Again, big round of applause to them. So real quickly, I wanted to separate the two, which is the $50 million is for immediate relief for small theaters to navigate not only the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic, but also navigating AB 5, which has really hindered the ability for some of our theaters to continue to thrive. SB 805 is a long-term solution to that problem. It will create a paymaster that will help small community theaters pay payroll services, cut down on overhead, and hopefully we will continue to push year after year, and this is not the end. SB 805 will keep moving forward, so thank you. And I also want to share that after becoming a performer for several years, I became a teacher. And one of the things that I realized throughout the years is that early on in my career, I was able to put performances for my students in the classrooms. We were able to teach music, art, performances, and little by little, the arts have disappeared in our classrooms, in our schools, in California, and we need those theaters to continue to be our partners, to provide that access, that equity to all those kids that otherwise would not be able to experience the arts. We cannot go back to a time that the arts was only for those that were wealthy. Everyone deserves access to the arts. And I'm honored to be here with one of the iconic actors, Danny Glover. So I want to steal a line from him. Big round of applause to him, too. I'm going to steal a line from him. I had the privilege of doing another press conference with him early on in the year, and he said some words that really resonated with me. They stuck with me, and he said, "We want small theaters to be telling our stories, not their stories." And so I hope I didn't step on your toes, Danny Glover, but thank you for that, because that is the reality we face. If we are to create a community, a state, an environment where everyone's tolerant of each other, everyone understands each other's differences, the stories that are told need to be authentic, and it needs to be coming from people that have experienced it through our eyes, through our experience, and through our journey. And so I'm so thankful that we get to see more and more directors, actors, and people of color coming into this arena, because, again, our children need to see themselves and those actors on stage. So to all of you that employ our communities of color, thank you for that. We really appreciate you. Big round of applause to them. And last, I will say this. As a former teacher, I have some homework for you to do. Number one, I need everyone to email, call, and thank Governor Gavin Newsom for this funding. Please tell me you'll do that. And I know he will continue to be a partner, so thank you, Governor Newsom. Number two, I need you to call your legislators. Right now, SB 805 is in appropriations, and then it'll go to the assembly. I need you to call all your assembly members and let them know how important this bill is to you. That's number two. And number three, if you haven't joined the coalition of SB 805, please do so today. Talk to any of these coalition members and let them know you want to help. We need all the help we can get. So thank you very much, and SB 805 will push forward. Have a good afternoon.
Our next speaker represents the city of Los Angeles's 13th district. He is the chair of the Energy, Climate Change, Environmental Justice, and River Committee, and chair of the ad hoc committee on the 2028 Olympics and Paralympics. He is deeply passionate about the environment, homelessness, civil rights, the arts, and working for a more inclusive Los Angeles, it is my pleasure to introduce our City Council member and my friend, LA City Council member Mitch O'Farrell.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I want to thank Stephen Sachs and the incredible team here at the Fountain Theater for your decades of work of bringing original works to the live stage here in Los Angeles, workshopping so many incredible productions that have gone on to continue telling the story that only live theater can tell. You know, I have something big time in common with Senator Rubio. I also did several plays back in the day. When I first moved to Los Angeles in '82, I was a member of 2 different theater groups over a 10-year span. I did many plays on what is now Theater Row, which is in the district that I get to represent. And I will say this, too, to Senator Rubio's point. I feel pretty strongly that that experience, doing several plays here in Los Angeles back in the day, and actually making my living as a professional entertainer, actor, dancer, singer, helped shape my ability to be effective on the Los Angeles City Council. There's no doubt in my mind that helped shape my abilities to be able to deliver victories and successes on behalf of the residents of Los Angeles, because I still have an artist's point of view in my approach to legislating. I cannot thank Senator Rubio enough for her leadership, her courage, and you just heard her speak on how her life experience has also shaped her appreciation and dedication to the arts and live theater. She is one of the good ones in Sacramento that we need to uplift and support and take her advice. Let's contact all of her colleagues in the Assembly and the Senate to make sure that across the state, these legislators get the message that 805 is of vital importance to the arts and live theater, not just in Los Angeles, but across the state of California. One of my best friends runs an arts nonprofit, the Santa Cecilia Orchestra. I'm on the board of the Santa Cecilia Orchestra. It is a Latina-run arts nonprofit. We do after-school programs in Los Angeles public schools, primarily in Latino and communities of color. Now, when AB 5 was passed, I actually went to Sacramento and met with Assemblymember Gonzalez, and we talked about that. We talked about the challenges that would likely present to live theater in Los Angeles. I feel that she understands, and I feel that she will definitely have the ability to understand and perhaps push this forward with a really strong recommendation. So let's make sure and contact Assemblymember Gonzalez and let her know as well of the importance of SB 805, how it is vital to the creative scene here in Los Angeles. I will say this as a politician, as an elected official. I've now been in office for 8 years. I know that all of the legislating, all of the policy, all of the block-by-block improvements that is my mission as an elected official cannot supplant what the arts can do. The arts and culture in Los Angeles are in their own lane, and only live theater and experimental works and laboratories of creativity are what help civilization. We can legislate to the end of the world, but if people don't have that vehicle of artistic expression and to understand things through a lens that only art can provide, then we cannot be successful as a civilization. And I feel very strongly that culturally across the United States, we don't appreciate that nearly enough like other countries do, other cultures across the world. Let's own this. Let's make sure that people across the state understand the importance of this, just as Senator Rubio does, and let's make this happen. SB 805 needs to be a resource that keeps on giving indefinitely until we change the conversation, and as a culture, we support the arts in greater magnitude than we ever have in the city and the state and the nation, for that matter. Lastly, I will say this. When the pandemic struck in March of 2020, my office pivoted. We immediately turned to reallocating all of our discretionary funding. We created a $1 million grant for rent subsidies for renters in the 13th District. We created a $1 million grant for small businesses in the 13th District. We also created a small subsidy for live theaters in the 13th District. And that's, $5,000 to $10,000 depending on the qualification of the applicant. But we're getting that money out the door, and we're helping theaters like the Fountain Theater and others. But they need much, much more. Let's invest in the arts. Let's invest in communities. Let's invest in our youth who only understand how to navigate life through creative thinking. Let's invest in our future in the state of California, and let's truly become worthy of the designation of the creative class in the United States, here in Los Angeles, here in Hollywood. Thank you so much, and may God bless.
Thank you, Mitch. Now, I'm a huge fan of this next gentleman. He is an award-winning, multi-award-winning actor, producer, activist, and humanitarian. His more than 100 films include Dreamgirls, Places in the Heart, Silverado, The Color Purple, Mandela, Grand Canyon. I loved Grand Canyon. And the Lethal Weapon franchise, and many, many more. He has starred on Broadway and is the co-founder of the Rubio Theater Company here in Los Angeles. And this is very exciting news. Just 2 months ago, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences announced that it will be honoring him with the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award, given to honor an individual in the motion picture arts and sciences whose humanitarian efforts have brought credit to the industry. Please welcome Mr. Danny Glover.
What do we want? Yes. On SB 805, what do we want? What do we want? All right, what do we want? All right. Well, thank you so much. I was sitting here listening to Senator Rubio and also listening to Josefina, and I'm thinking, man, these are the Dolores Huertas, the Harriet Tubmans, the Sojourner Truths of the 21st century. Thank you. They are amazing. We're talking about truth. Movements cannot transform our communities without art. It is essential. We've known it all the time. We've known it from time to beginning. Take for 1963. 1963, with the Free Southern Free Southern Theater in Mississippi, formed by members of Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and CORE. Why? Because they were telling the truth, and they were talking about the community they represent. They were talking about real fundamental change. That's what art is in our mind. Imagination. Albert Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge. The idea that. Robeson said that artists are the gatekeepers of truth. Paul Robeson said that. And we're here to tell our assemblymen, to tell our senators, our state senators, that we want more. Yes, we thank Governor Gavin Newsom for his bold initiative to supply $50 million for struggling community art programs in the state. Yes, we commend that. We commend that, but we need more. Artists has to be our foundation of building a new world. When we're going to talk about this pandemic that we're going through, it's going to be artists who are going to lead the way, like they've always done. Artists, this is for us. This is the moment. Thank you so much. And our voice has to be heard, will be heard. The more we tell our council members here, local, and thank you, sir, thank you for your work. But the more we tell our state representatives, the more we build this community of love, as Dr. King would say, the beloved community. When we're talking about artists, we're talking about building the beloved community. So when more we do that, the work we do, we'll get it done. What do we want? What do we want? Thank you so much.
All right. She is the star of the Sundance Film Festival award-winning movie 9 Days, now playing in movie theaters nationwide. She works in intimate theaters throughout Los Angeles, including the Road Theater, the Skylight, the Celebration, Boston Court Pasadena, and the Mark Taper Forum. She is the Western Regional Counselor for Actors Equity Association. Please welcome Ariana Ortiz.
Thank you for plugging my movie. Good morning, everybody. I am so happy to be here today. After over a year myself working quietly behind the scenes, personally advocating for SB 805, it truly fills me with joy to be able to speak here publicly, not only as a Western Principal Counselor from the Actors Equity Association, which endorses SB 805, and ask the Appropriations Committee to vote it through to the floor this week, but as someone who got, as you just heard, who got her professional start in 99-seat theaters, small theaters in Los Angeles. My first role when I graduated from the California Institute of the Arts was at the Los Angeles Women's Shakespeare Company, a place where women of color and all backgrounds were able to stretch their talents at a time when there were very few other places that they could. For me, this is personal. Small theaters were my first artistic home, and they are not in my past. I'm in this beautiful movie right now that is in theaters across the United States and Canada and opening around the world. It's called 9 Days. It is truly a work of art. I'd be telling you to see that even if I weren't in it. I shot 9 Days immediately after closing Friends with Guns at the Road Theater on Magnolia in North Hollywood. Small 99-seat theater, critically acclaimed. I'm still talking with that playwright about adapting the project for the screen. I just sent her an email about it. When I finished filming 9 Days, which was the summer of 2019, I then helped shepherd a 99-seat production to the same small stage called Nowhere on the Border, filled with a mostly Latino cast. It opened right as I was going to the premiere of 9 Days at the 2020 Sundance Film Festival. I share all of this because these small theater companies are safe havens for diverse artists like myself. And part of the reason I ran for and was elected to the Actors Equity National Council was to raise awareness and make a stand about the appalling lack of representation on professional stages for people of color. SB 805 is for these theaters, and that matters. The numbers for Latinos are improving slightly, but with Latinos in particular at 20% of the population now, according to the census, less than 4% of professional contracts are still going to Latinos. That's with Hamilton. I mean, is that an improvement when we used to be 18% of the population and got less than 3% of the contracts? This is real. Now, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the partnerships and the incredible work that has been happening thus far with SB 805. First, to Senator Rubio and the SB 805 Coalition for all their hard work to get us so close to where we are now. This has been it's been a long time coming. It's no small feat. I see you. I thank you. Your passion and commitment is awe-inspiring. Senator Rubio, thank you for leading this charge. And I personally would like to give a shout out to Western Regional Director of Actors Equity, Gail Gabler. Thank you, Gail, for your unwavering commitment to arts funding and also protecting workers. She's pretty incredible, and I really wish she could have been here today. And also to Brandon Lorenz. Those two have been incredibly patient with me, who have been passionately advocating for SB 805, and they've been doing some really amazing advocacy work for theater and theater artists during this process. Lots of people behind the scenes working quietly to move this forward. And a shout out to Actors Equity President Kate Schindel for her continued support. Thank you, Kate. I'm very, very happy to be here in their stead. Also, a giant thank you to Senator Lorena Gonzalez, who was a crucial partner in securing the addition of the $50 million for small theaters in the state budget at this time. That is no small feat. This is massive. Of course, my hope, all of our hope, is that Senator Gonzalez, as chair of the Appropriations Committee, can help lead us across the finish line with SB 805, support SB 805, which provides spending infrastructure for that $50 million that she helped secure. It's kind of amazing that these two paths to arts funding can work together. It's actually really, I'm really, really hopeful about the entire process. So here's some of the things that SB 805 does. If you don't already know, it protects actors and stage managers while also providing necessary support and efficiencies for these small nonprofit performing arts companies. This protection is needed now more than ever, and as the arts sector recovers, live performing art events will also benefit the entire California economy. These small professional nonprofit theaters create an average of 64 jobs annually. That's over 100,000 jobs annually. Jobs! Jobs! Who can say no to jobs? They provide networking, these theaters, educational and mentoring opportunities for BIPOC individuals, for career advancement and increased performance experience. It's exactly what I have been doing all of these years in theater, continuing to hone my talents that absolutely led me directly to being in a position to make the beautiful film that I am in now. And lastly, every attendee at live arts events spends over $30 per person at other services, from childcare to transportation to dining. And as you heard from Senator Rubio herself, SB 805 establishes the Performing Arts Equitable Payroll Fund. Okay, payroll. Sounds a little boring. Sounds a little like, who wants to do payroll? This is huge for small theaters. Payroll is a challenge for small theaters because the nature of performing arts, productions can come together for several weeks at a time or for a much shorter amount of time, a couple of weeks at that. So you have to start this administrative process all over again with every new company or with every new production. SB 805 solves that challenge that can be crippling for small companies when it comes to protecting workers. It's a huge thing in Actors Equity. That idea actually began with Actors Equity, and they have been advocating for it for a long time. This is why they strongly support SB 805. It is a step in the right direction. We're going to keep going. And by the way, the union looks forward to working with anybody who can help make California a leader in arts funding. Bills like SB 805 are a big step in the right direction. Yes. So as I said myself, Actors Equity endorses the passage of SB 805. We urge members of the general public to directly reach out to members of the Assembly Appropriations Committee prior to August 19th so that we can get this through the floor, or to the floor through the committee. SB 805 has to get through this committee next before these final steps on its way to the governor's desk. And each step is make or break, not just for the bill, but for small theaters in the entire state of California. I don't know about all of you, but I have seen so many businesses shuttering in this pandemic. What are we going to have left behind as Delta rages and the Lambda variant is right behind it? This pandemic is serious. It's deadly. We're going to need theater, the kind everybody can afford. Small theaters in your community to help our spirits recover from this. We need it. California needs SB 805. Thank you so much.
You know her as FBI tech analyst Penelope Garcia on the hit TV show Criminal Minds. She is a longtime member of Theater of Note, an LA ensemble of artists who create and develop challenging new work. Theater of Note is a member of SB 805 Coalition. Please welcome Kirsten Vangsness.
Thank you, and I would like to thank Councilmember O'Farrell for being here because Theater of Note is in his council. He's busy doing work right now and talking to you. But thank you, Councilman O'Farrell. I appreciate you because Theater of Note is in your district. So I have been in your business for over 2 decades as a member of Theater of Note. So you guys, I have the astonishing privilege of being a white person. So I want to put that in front of that, meaning I come from the Central Valley of California. Poor kid, public school parents. I do have this, gigantic, obvious privilege being that. So I want to put that out in the front. But I'm a product of California. Public school, community college, Cal State Fullerton, no money, no student loans, all the things. I went to the California State Summer School of the Arts on a scholarship, and theater was my acting school. Theater was my community. Okay. We need our small spaces. Our small spaces. Note did a show right before the pandemic, and it was called For the Love Of. And that's the reason why we do this. We don't do this to get paid, last time I checked, right? We do this because it's important to tell those stories. That is where we like Danny Glover said. And Danny Glover, by the way, and Ariana, am I saying it right? Ariana, and Senator Rubio and O'Farrell and French and Vanessa and Mark Antonio. And we're not anomalies. We are not anomalies that we all have these big, full, wonderful lives. If you're a theater person or you've been in our community, you have that. So that's an important thing. And the thing about California is that we know where to put our money. We're generous. We're art-hearted. We know that you don't shove money into things that already have attention and are the big places. We know how to do this. So we're not asking for anything weird. We're asking our art-hearted, California values full of people in the government to go do the right thing that we just do naturally as Californians, which is give back to us, give back to the community, and keep those small conversations started, because those small conversations is where the big movies get made. They don't write movies about, they didn't write a movie. The Lord of the Rings was not called like Saruman because he already had the power, right? It was about the little guy trying to throw the ring into the mountain, right? So there is a thing about art and commerce, right? You can't get art always from commerce. You can't do it, but we make so much commerce in California from art. So you need us. You don't try to pretend that we're a luxury. We are not a luxury. We are a need, period. We are a need for you to make money. And beyond that, we are a need. We are the joy from which social justice gets its fire from. That's the reason why Black Lives Matter and LGBTIQ plus IA, I forget my own thing. That's what we start those conversations. Feminism, all of that stuff. This is our joy bank. So don't take away our joy bank to make California as rad as it is. I'm going to quote a New Yorker right now. Do the right thing. That's all. That's all I'm going to say. We're not a luxury. Stop acting like we are. I am already excited that Senator Lorena Gonzalez is going to pass through SB 805. And thank you, Governor Newsom, for passing through SB 805, because you are as rad as we are. So thank you in advance.
Fired up. Ready to go. This next gentleman is a graduate of the Yale School of Drama. He is the producing artistic director of the award-winning East-West Players, the nation's premier Asian American theater company and one of the longest-running theaters of color in the United States. He is a member of the Asian Pacific American Media Coalition and serves on the boards of the Consortium of Asian American Theaters and Artists and Theater Communications Group. Ladies and gentlemen, Snehal Desai.
A little shorter than everyone. Okay. Is it me, or should someone find a play and cast Senator Rubio and Councilmember O'Farrell in something? I think they need a comeback. I would watch that production of Virginia Woolf. I would. We are here today to make sure everyone calls their elected officials in Sacramento, particularly Senator Gonzalez and those on the Senate Appropriations Committee, to make clear your support for Senate Bill 805. We are so grateful to Senator Rubio and Senator Ben Allen, as well as Councilmember O'Farrell and everyone here in LA on the city, county, and state level that has shown unwavering support for small nonprofit arts organizations. The theater community, and particularly small nonprofit organizations, were already struggling to find ways to comply with AB 5. But now, with the impact of COVID, the situation is dire for so many performing arts organizations. East West Players was started just down the street in the church of the basement of a church. Organizations like ours are essential access points for emerging artists of color. We give BIPOC artists their first professional breaks. Without us, there would be such fewer opportunities. Small nonprofit organizations are also the first to tell stories from communities whose voices we have not heard or who have been marginalized. Without the passing of this bill, those stories and those communities we won't be able to meet or experience. And our communities won't see the opportunity to see themselves reflected on the stage. So again, please call Senator Gonzalez, your state senator, and the governor's office to ensure they support SB 805. It gives artists and small nonprofits an opportunity to pay their artists, be more equitable, and come back stronger. Thank you.
She is an actor, writer, and director. She was Anime Wong on the Netflix series Hollywood and was nominated for the Best Actress Golden Horse Award, honoring Chinese language films, for the movie Saving Face. She wrote and performed her one-woman show Made in Taiwan and toured the David Henry Hwang play Chinglish. May I introduce to you Michelle Krusik.
Thank you so much, Snehal, fellow API. I love to see two of us on the stage. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've been part of this journey since An Nguyen from Chance Theater drew me in and said to me, you know, we really need your support. I know you came from small theater. Can you please help us be an ambassador? I learned about SB 805 and how it affects, and I'm so, so grateful to Governor Gavin Newsom for giving us $50 million, for giving the arts money, because we all know that no one else gives us money. So we do it for free. We do it for the passion of being an artist and the importance of what we know artists do for society. And I studied with the same acting teacher as his wife, Jennifer, so I know she's a champion of the arts as well. SB 805 has not passed yet, so this is specifically for Assemblywoman Gonzalez and for all of you people out there who may not connect why theater is important for just the average everyday person, because not everybody goes to the theater. And for me, I am lucky enough to have the career I have, but I, at my core, am just an everyday person. I came from a working class home. My father was in the Navy. My mother was an immigrant from Taiwan who worked for $25 a day at a Chinese restaurant. And together, my parents fought over money because they struggled to keep a family of 5 housed, homed, and in school. And my parents, they were not poor, but we were frugal. And the reason why it's important for me to share my personal story is that I felt that theater saved my life quite literally, because in the home of a family that does not have very much money, you are exposed quite often to trauma. in different forms. And my parents, as loving as they are, they had a tough marriage. And I was exposed to it from a very early on. And I wrote about it in my solo show, which opened the doors for me back in 2001. And I was able to launch my career with my solo show. I then became interested in domestic violence and decided to work with a shelter, Center for Pacific Asian American Family, and they helped me get state certified to become a domestic violence awareness advocate. And it was in that state certification I realized that I was experiencing PTSD from my childhood, and I started to put together the dots of why I was telling my story and why it was important for me then to help survivors tell their stories, because the arts for me gave me a way to tell my story so that I could heal. But the physiology of trauma is so embedded in your body that every time I went to perform, I would feel the effects of it. And I started to use theater technique and my show as a way to address my trauma. And I started to become a more stable and a much more self-aware human being, which is why I'm an advocate for trauma-informed technique, trauma-informed relationships, for theater as a space that creates community. It is also a safe space in which we can have the most difficult conversations in a space that does not invite threat and violence. Every day I am waking up to headlines of so much assault and violence in our country, and I am grateful that there is the arts, especially live theater, that gives us the ability to talk to one another so that we can help see each other. And the reason why I'm able to stand here and speak so confidently is because theater gave me those abilities to become a much more informed person. And in this way, I know that you small theaters and your community-based theaters and your nonprofit theaters, I know the value of what you are giving to everybody who walks through your door. Whether you are an audience member or you are a collaborator, you are a theater maker, I understand that over the course of the past 25 years, theater has helped me grow as a person. It has made me better so that I have been able to stop the cycle of violence within my generation, because I came from violence, my parents came from violence, they came from trauma, and for myself, I have used theater, the performing arts, and my understanding of how it affects the physiology of the nervous system so that I can now end that with my generation and so that my kids aren't going to take that on. If I didn't have theater and those community-based safe havens to go to where I developed myself, which takes immense infrastructure, which is why SB 805 is so important, because these small theaters cannot just run on fumes. And 50 million is incredible, but this paymaster issue, which is difficult to understand for some people, but the paymaster issue is important because it helps these small theaters cover overhead so that they can stay afloat and give all of us the opportunity to develop our voice. And that is why I'm here today to tell you my personal story, because we need safe havens for these young people to go to escape often dysfunctional families so that they can actually have a space to think and feel and become who they are meant to be, so that they are not just performers. They go into the fields that they may choose, that if they decide not to become theater makers, they go and they become senators. They become the community leaders that stand on this stage that are not just performers. We are artists in every field, and I know all of us are multi-hyphenates. And it creates better human beings who then become embedded into society and are change makers in a way of thinking and behaving and engaging in one another as human beings, which we need so much right now to overcome all of this divisiveness in our country. So I know those were a lot of dots to make, but that is why SB 805 is so important, and why it's important for especially someone like me who comes from no money, working class, like many of us are here to not just make theater, but to make better human beings and a better culture. Thank you. SB 805. Please, please, please call your legislators, and please, Assemblywoman Gonzalez, please, I implore you to please understand how much we cannot devalue the importance of these theaters within these communities that serve these young voices that need space to cultivate themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Our next speaker is the producer and artistic director of the Lily Tomlin Jane Wagner Cultural Center at the Los Angeles LGBT Center. His productions have earned critical acclaim and received many awards, including the Margaret Hartford Award for Sustained Excellence in Theater. Mr. John Imparto.
Hello. So when the pandemic hit, I said to my staff, if we don't do something, we'll look like we're defeated, and we will not be defeated. So I implored my staff to come up with an idea. What can we do? We had a big empty garage that we weren't using, and they said, let's do drive-in garage theater. It's being done in Berlin. I was like, okay, so let's give that a shot. So with the leadership of John Lawrence Rivera and Playwrights Arena, we collaborated, and we did the first, and for the first year of the pandemic, and I'm very proud of this, the only original piece of theater done in the United States of America during the pandemic. And that play was about 3 trans people of color, and it was about Black Lives Matter, police brutality, and trans rights. And when we did this play, we had people were not allowed to come out of their cars. That was the rule. But they would roll down their windows and say to us, oh, my God, thank you so much. You don't know what it meant to me to come here tonight and see a play, even in a car, for 45 minutes. It meant the world to me. When I did a show called To Tea or Not to Tea with Dilo, a trans man from Sri Lanka, people would not leave their seats. They would be hysterical, saying to me, I never thought I'd see my voice on stage. I'm from the South Asian diaspora. I think I'm trans. I think I'm non-binary. This is my voice. I would have never seen that. People came back 4 and 5 times and brought their families, their aunties, and then came and told Dilo and myself that they literally got the courage to come out to their families. That's what theater does. It's transformative. It makes that quantum leap from where you are to someplace else. I want to just mention the trajectory of actors. I grew up in New York, not a lot of money, said to my parents, oh, I'm going to audition for Carnegie Mellon. Looking back, I was nuts. There's no money for that. So I went to New York, waited on tables, and I did every off-Broadway show I could do and studied with teachers that I could afford. And in that process, we were developing plays. We would literally get script changes the day of the show, and before the curtain went up, you're learning new scenes. When I got my first soap opera job, I was given scripts sometimes an hour before we went to tape saying, the producers didn't like this scene, here's a new scene. I was prepared. I knew how to do cold readings. I knew how to sight read. I knew how to take a script within an hour and learn it and be able to nail it in front of a camera. That's what theater does. It is the training ground. Nobody says, I'm going to go because I was a good cellist in high school and join the LA Philharmonic. I was a good dancer, I'll go join the ABT. You have to own your craft. And the way many people do it, especially poor people and people of color who can't afford to go to expensive colleges, or even state colleges for that matter, they learn their craft through small 99-seat and 50-seat theater. That's the way they find their gateway to a career. I did a show called Hit the Wall, and a young woman named Shaniqua Shande, a beautiful actress, her first play was playing sort of Angela Davis. I got a call from a casting agent saying, we saw a play a few years ago with this young actress. Can you get me in contact with her? Of course I can. She just finished taping the lead role in an Amazon Prime series. Last night I counted 11 actors I know that have worked in my theater over the years, and these are ones I really know for sure, that literally got jobs because people saw them in a small theater and then their lives have changed. One of my actors right now is going to be starring in this new Latino series on ABC, an all-Latino family, and has one of the lead roles. That's how it happens. So the last thing I want to say is, I've been thinking about what all these wonderful people have said. It comes down to commitment. What do we do as people with commitment? We commit to our lovers, our husbands, our wives, certainly our children, our friends, our family. We commit to lifting them up, right? When you're in love with somebody, you make them a better person. You make them want to do more, achieve more. So to lift up our voices and to help this city, we've got to commit to this bill, to SB 805. We have to. And the last thing I'll say is it always comes down to money. So when you do theater, what happens? People pay for parking, buses, they pay for parking meters, trains. They go to theater and they eat before and after. It makes neighborhoods safe. If it comes down to money, the investment and the commitment into this bill means you'll be generating far more money into the city, and you'll be lifting up the voices of people who do not get a voice. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Our final speaker is the president of the Theater Producers League of Los Angeles and the artistic director of the award-winning Open Fist Theater Company. Open Fist! Which is a highly acclaimed ensemble theater now in its 30th year. All right. As president of the Theater Producers League, she has helped lead the coalition in support of SB 805 and chaired the organization's COVID Safety Task Force. Talk about your arts warrior. Here is Martha Dempson.
Wow. Even in the sun, even melting, what a group. You guys really inspire me. You just embody passion. And I guess that's the best of what we do as theater makers, isn't it? We empower passion. And normally that's the kind of thing I would want to talk to at a moment like this. I would like to talk about the way that the arts serve our communities and our artists by leveraging passion and imagination, curiosity, and dreams. But today, we're here to thank Senator Rubio and her colleagues in the legislation for empowering something else, for empowering us as employers. Wow. Yeah, no, I know. It sounds so strange. I never, ever, ever thought that I would say anything like that. So the one-time grants that we are receiving of $2,550 and $75,000 are going to do so much to help us help our creative workers as we emerge from this pandemic. But this is just the start. Even more striking is the promise of Senator Rubio's visionary legislation, SB 805. If it's enacted, yeah, woohoo! No, not if. When it's enacted, it will establish an enduring nonprofit public partnership. It recognizes that we are engines to create creative opportunity, and it provides a mechanism to turn those opportunities into jobs in the creative sector. As Ariana said, this isn't just a few jobs. There are over 2,000 small performing arts organizations in this state. That means this legislation will create upwards of 100,000 jobs each year. Yep. So you know what this is? This is a K, yes. And I brought it because there is this thing called a K-shaped recovery. And when different communities emerge from recessions, it is always true that there is a K-shaped recovery. But the COVID recession has led to the most dramatic, the most extreme K in this country's history. The wealthy have gone straight up, and the poorer communities have gone. What poorer communities need now is not just money in the pockets of our members. It's investment in the community enterprises that create more jobs and circulate the money in our communities, right? When you spend $1 in your community, it gets spent again and again and again. It can create $5 for every $1. We all know where the money goes coming into our theaters, and it's been said on the stage. It goes to lumber yards and paint stores and fabric stores and print shops. It goes to furniture stores, dry cleaners. It goes to HVAC specialists and painters and electricians. Oh, yeah, and artists. And the patrons coming to our ticket, they don't just come into our theaters, they don't just buy tickets. They buy dinner, they go to cafes and bars and restaurants, they hire babysitters, they pay for parking. And all this money gets spent again, and it gets spent again. And that's what creates sustainable community. If you think about money as water, and you think about our community-based theaters as plants, and the community as the ecosystem, if the plants are dead, watering is not going to help. You need healthy plants, and you need lots of water to build healthy communities. And that's what we're talking about today. Investment in our theaters won't just save the performing arts in California. It will help drive the recovery of disadvantaged communities all across the state. Not only that, if we can legislate this, SB 805 and AB 5 together, they will transform California forever. Yep. The promise of so many jobs for emerging artists will ensure that the incubator for new talent and new creativity remains in California for decades to come. And if we ensure that that incubator nurtures artists and creative workers who would never previously had an opportunity to enter the arts and entertainment sector, what do you think that can do? When I walked into the Open Fist Theater almost 30 years ago to this day, towards the end of August in 1991, and I was handed what is possibly a t-shirt with the ugliest logo of all time, I could smell in the dust of the troopers who built the place. They were the early vaudevillians. All of my dreams for the future. And now, 95 productions later, I'm standing here asking that we give a chance to the Marthas of tomorrow to have the same big dreams. Assemblywoman Gonzalez, members of the Appropriations Committee, Assembly members, and Governor Newsom, please follow your colleagues in the Senate and vote to enact SB 805. Save the Performing Arts Act of 2021 for the future of the creative economy, for future workers, for our communities, and for the economic recovery of everything, every place in this state. Thank you. Woo-hoo.
Thank you all for joining us this morning. Remember, the fight is not over. On August 19th, SB 805 goes before the Appropriations Committee, and we urge everyone to reach out to members of that committee, asking them to support SB 805. The show must go on. Thank you.